The first step to creating a solid mesh is splitting the solid into mappable regions. The model is oriented to get a better view of the solid to help decide how to split the solid. To split the Solid Edit panel is used. To enter this panel, Geometry, Edit, Solids, Trim with Lines is selected. The Width Bounding Lines option is used, and the two ribs on the solid will be separated from the rest of the solid. First, the solid is selected. The Line selector is activated, and then two parallel lines connecting the rib to the solid are selected. Trim is chosen, and the solid is trimmed between the two lines selected. Notice how the surface defined by the two lines selected is now red. This means that it is a thin face. A thin face is a surface that has the same solid on all sides. This means that the rib hasn't been separated from the solid yet, and more trimming needs to be done. Again, the solid is selected and two parallel lines connecting the rib to the rest of the solid are selected. This surface is also a thin face. The trim will be done one more time with the final pair of parallel lines connecting the rib to the rest of the solid. Now the surfaces are yellow, indicating that they are a full partition face. A full partition face is a surface that defines a shared boundary between one or more solids. This means that the rib is now a separate solid. This process is repeated to trim the second rib. Next, the solid will be trimmed again, this time using the Width Sweep Lines option. First, the solid is selected. Then, the 7 lines that define the curved region of the solid are selected. N1 and N2 are selected to define a vector. This vector defines the direction in which to sweep the lines to make the trim. Trim is then selected. One of the solids is isolated using the Mask panel on the Tool page. The entity type is set to Solids, and then 3 solids are selected in the graphics area. Mask is then selected and the one solid is isolated. The 2D topology of the remaining solid needs to be updated. When performing a solid mesh, you can have multiple source faces, but only one destination face. Also remember that everywhere there is a fixed point, there will be a node. The 2D topology will be edited using tools on the Geom page. First, the Quick Edit panel is used. The first step to editing the topology is to trim the surface using a fixed point and a line. First, Node next to Split Surf Line is selected. A fixed point is then selected and then a line is selected. The surface is split along the vector normal to the line and the fixed point. This is then repeated with the fixed point on the other side. This is done yet again to split the cylindrical surface at the same locations. Also, there is an area where there are two fixed points very close to one another. We will split the surface using one of the fixed points, and then later we will suppress the line we don't want. First, the point is selected and then the line. This process is repeated on the other side. Next, the line selector next to toggle edge is selected. This will allow us to suppress edges so that nodes aren't created along them. Left-clicking on the line suppresses the edge. All unnecessary lines are suppressed. Now the solid has many source faces, but only one destination face. The other solids are unmasked, and then the Solid Edit panel is selected again. The Trim with Plane or Surfaces subpanel is selected, and then the solid to be trimmed is selected. The solid will be trimmed along the plane defined by the side of each rib. First, N1 is selected, and then N1, N2, N3, and B are defined on one of the side faces of the rib. Trim is then selected. This process is then repeated on the other faces of the ribs. Next, the solids are trimmed along a plane defined at the top of the ribs. First, the plane is defined using N1, N2, and N3, and then the base point B is defined at the top of the ribs. Now that it appears that all the trimming is completed, the visualization mode is set to mappable to see if the solids are mappable. Notice that one solid is being shown as unmappable. By investigating the topology, we see that there is a line that is currently shared that should be suppressed. Once the line is suppressed, the solid is considered mappable. Solid editing is now complete, and the model is ready for meshing.